Hello and welcome to VXLAN course. This is going to be VXLAN EVPN engineering from core underlay to multi-site fabric. My name is Mohammed Imani and I have been network consultant and trainer for more than 20 years since 2004. And I'm just going to be your trainer during this course. We are going to have an overview of VXLAN in data center in the first video. My focus is going to be on the VXLAN in data center. So VXLAN could be used in different contexts, but the context that I am talking about is specifically related to the data center. I'm just going to show you how we can configure the underlay of a class network. The class is going to be the type of a spine and leaf fabric that we create in the beginning. Most likely you're going to migrate from your classic Ethernet network towards VXLAN. I have a course on migration, of course, as well. But right now we are just focusing on just creating the VXLAN network. The first thing that we are going to create is going to be the underlay. Then I'm just going to show you how we can have VXLAN flood and learn and also VXLAN EVPN in this kind of a network. What I mean by this is you can just go with data plane if your network is small and you don't have multi-tenancy enabled in that. But if you want to have multi-tenancy enabled and your network is going to be growing and becoming big, then VXLAN EVPN is going to be the way to go. You have to add BGP as your control plane, and BGP is going to be the database for all the MAC addresses and IP addresses that are present in your network. Then I'm just going to talk about BGP for underlay. BGP for underlay could be used in, let's say, mega scalers. A lot of big data centers have chosen to use eBGP for their underlay. I'm just going to show you how we can configure BGP for the underlay. And even if your network is not so big, if you plan to grow, BGP is going to be a better choice for your underlay. Why? Because first of all, it reduces the complexities that you have because of adding another protocol. You are just removing IS2IS or OSPF as the underlay. You just choose to have BGP as the one protocol for your network. This is one less protocol to troubleshoot and maintain. On the other hand, BGP has great capabilities for saving and manipulating and managing a huge number of MAC addresses and IP addresses, which is going to be great for your big network. Then we are going to add EVPN to the network. I'm just going to show you something which is interesting, and that is inter-VXLAN routing and bridging. Now, inter-VXLAN routing and bridging is very much similar to inter-VLAN routing in a classic Ethernet network, but this is going to be between different, let's say, bridge domains that we create in VXLAN. And there are two ways to route between different VNIs. One of them is going to be asymmetric, and the other one is going to be symmetric. Now, symmetric is going to be more optimal and less complex, so I'm just going to show you how we can just do that. Later, we are going to add VPC to VXLAN. Now, sometimes you might say, okay, VPC is not a big deal in VXLAN network. I can use another feature, which is ECMP. ECMP is going to work just fine. But for some servers, for example, and some end nodes that do not understand ECMP, VPC is going to be a great option. Now, configuring VPC on VXLAN has some considerations that I'm going to speak about that, and I'm just going to show you how you can configure that. Ingress replication and multicast are going to be compared during the course. I'm just going to show you that if you want to grow, then multicast is going to be the way to go, but for your small network and also for multi-site VXLAN, ingress replication is the only option that we have in this configuration. There are some constraints and best practices. I'm just going to focus on design more than a usual course because design is going to be the most important part of any deployment in the network. I'm just going to start with some, let's say, the best practices. I'm going to explain why you need to do this, not that, why you need to do that and not this. We are going to go through a lot of whys during the course. And then I'm just going to add some more advanced topic to the VXLAN. For example, if you want to have a second tier of leaf switches, how can you do that? Now, having a second tier of leaf switches is something very common in bigger networks. The reason for that is you can just increase the number of ports that you have. But on the other hand, this is not going to be a good option for low latency, let's say, applications. For applications that cannot really tolerate delay. So that's not going to be a good option. But you can have a second tier leaf and a first tier leaf connected to the end nodes at the same time. So we are going to see that. We are going to check the design, and I'm just going to show you the configuration as well. Of course, configuration is not going to be, like I said, a huge focus in the course, but you need to know everything about the configuration. So that's going to be a good thing. ARP suppression is a nice feature that 99% of the time I ask you to enable that, although ARP suppression might introduce some problems that might need to have some kind of troubleshooting in your network. So sometimes you have to remove it just to make sure that, for example, vMotions are going to be seamless and you are not going to have any problem figuring out where the virtual machine has moved. But most of the time, keeping ARP suppression on and working is going to be the best practice. After that, I'm going to speak about VXLAN v6, and also I'm just going to show you VXLAN pure IPv6 fabric. That's going to be a good option again for megascalers. And then I'm just going to show you that we create VRFs inside our fabrics, but we can extend the VRFs outside of fabric. This is going to be a good option when you have a tenant, whatever the tenant is, to external network, and you want to keep this on. Most of the time, this is very much similar to Inter-AS MPLS option A, and you're going to see that this is very much similar in configuration to that as well. The other thing that is very important is VRF leaking. From MPLS, if you have worked with that, you already know what VRF leaking is. This is very much similar to just configuring the policies in a way that you can have some prefixes from another VRF in your VRF. And most of the time, of course, VRF leaking is something common, because at least for external networks, you need to have some kind of reachability. Let's say, for example, for northbound connections, northbound traffic towards the, let's say, internet or some external networks. Then I'm just going to show you how we can use VRF leaking to make sure that some default routes, for example, have been injected into all VRFs or something like that. The next thing that I'm just going to speak about is VXLAN multi-site. Now, our network is not going to be just, let's say, incubated, just in a box data center. We need to make sure that multiple data centers can connect to each other. So VXLAN multi-site is going to show you some of the restrictions and some of the options that you have to make sure that multiple sites, multiple data centers can talk to each other. And finally, I'm just going to show you something about tenant routed multicast and how we can enable them. Now, what I'm going to use for the lab is going to be multiple topologies. I'm just going to put these topologies in your course. You can just download them, you can use them. Also, there is a workbook that all the configuration have been pasted in that workbook, so you can use that. The problem with the lab that we are using is we are using virtual images. Virtual images, of course, are not going to support every feature that we enable in here. For example, you will see that TRM is going to work a little finicky, and also VXLAN multi-site, you might see the prefixes the way you need to see, but maybe data plane is not going to work just fine. For other features, you might see some problems. For example, if you want to have IS-to-IS for your underlay, then increasing the let's say MTU value to 92 something or 9150, anything over the default MTU is going to just break the, let's say, adjacencies for different routing protocols. So for let's say PIM, or for adjacencies for the ISIS speakers. So there are some problems with the virtual images, but I will tell you something, and that is the configuration is going to work on production environment just fine without any problem. So let's just start with the course and go for the first topic.